Last night, I was sitting in the security office of the old Westfield Shopping Mall, staring at 12 flickering monitors that showed nothing but darkness and abandoned stores. I'd taken this night shift job 3 weeks ago, desperate for cash after losing my day job. The pay was suspiciously good for what seemed like easy work. Just watch the cameras, do a patrol every 2 hours, and make sure no one breaks in. Simple, right? The mall had closed down 5 years ago after some incident nobody wanted to talk about. The manager who hired me, Mr. Garrett, was vague about the details. Just structural issues, he'd said, avoiding eye contact. We're preparing it for renovation. But walking through those empty corridors during my first week, I knew something was wrong. The air felt thick, heavy with something I couldn't name. Tonight started like any other. I clocked in at 10 p.m., made my first round through the main concourse, and settled into the cramped security office with my thermos of coffee and a sandwich. The monitors hummed their usual electric drone. Camera 1 showed the main entrance. Camera 2 covered the food court. Cameras 3 through 12 were scattered throughout the 3 floors: jewelry stores, clothing boutiques, the arcade that still had machines covered in dusty white sheets. Around midnight, Camera 7 went static. I tapped the monitor, annoyed. This happened sometimes. The wiring in this place was ancient, but when the image flickered back, I froze. There was someone standing in the middle of JCPenney's children's section, a figure, completely still, facing away from the camera. My heart started hammering. I grabbed my flashlight and radio, protocols running through my head. Probably just a homeless person who'd found a way in. Security to possible intruder, I muttered into the radio, knowing no one would respond. I was alone here. Always alone. I made my way through the dark corridors, my flashlight beam cutting through the blackness. The mall at night was a different beast. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of my vision, and every creak of the old building made me jump. When I reached JCPenney's, I swept my light across the children's section. Empty. Not just empty of people, empty of the figure I'd seen. There was nowhere to hide. The racks were sparse, the mannequins all accounted for in their usual positions. I stood there, breathing hard, telling myself I'd imagined it. Stress, lack of sleep, but my hands were shaking as I headed back to the office. Camera 7 was working fine when I returned. I rewound the footage, my finger trembling on the button. There, at 12:03 a.m., the figure appeared. Not walking into frame, just appearing. Standing there for exactly 47 seconds before vanishing the same way. No fade, no movement. One frame it was there, the next frame it wasn't. I felt cold sweat dripping down my back. At 1 a.m., Camera 3 showed something in the food court. Multiple figures this time, sitting at the tables like customers. But the mall had been closed for 5 years. There was no way. I zoomed in on the grainy image. They were all facing the same direction, toward the camera, their features blurred and indistinct. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "We've been waiting for you." I dropped the phone. It clattered on the desk, screen still glowing with those 6 words. I grabbed it again, hands shaking, and tried to call back. The number was invalid. Didn't exist. Camera 5 now showed the arcade. The white sheets covering the machines were moving, billowing as if caught in a strong wind. But there was no wind in the mall. The air was always stale, still. One of the sheets fell away, revealing a dusty arcade cabinet, and then it turned on. Bright colors flashed across the screen, some racing game from the 90s. The sound crackled through the security office speakers. Engine noises, cheerful music, the digital voice saying, "Insert coin." No one was there to insert a coin. More machines started turning on, one by one. The arcade blazed with light and sound in the middle of the empty mall. I watched on the monitor, paralyzed. And then I saw them, small figures moving between the machines. Children. At least they looked like children. Their movements were wrong, jerky, like stop-motion animation. I had to do another patrol. It was in my contract. Every 2 hours, no exceptions. But everything in my body screamed at me to stay in this office, lock the door, wait for sunrise. I looked at the clock. 1:47 a.m., still over 6 hours until my shift ended. The lights in the office flickered. When they came back on, there was a child standing in the doorway. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, wearing a faded yellow dress. Her hair hung in limp strands around her face. She wasn't looking at me. Her head was tilted down, eyes fixed on the floor. "Hello?" My voice cracked. "Are you lost?" She didn't respond. Didn't move. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor.